Howdy all, this is the new playtest build with a brand new tutorial with Orbic chatting to us. So there's a couple little pieces of dialogue, and this is kind of trying to just force players to learn how everything works, because that's still one of the most significant challenges this game has. Is that to get to the roguelike elements you really need to understand how these various buildings work. So we start off teaching the player how to drill, then we give them the switch, and then the ability to rotate between their buildings. Then we tee up this nice little line to then give them a flip switch, such that the player can do a good starting flip switch line. Then on the other side, show the player how to use a merger, which they've got to pick up. Slap the merger down. It's already in the right position. Crazy. And then we teach the player how to sell, such that we can make space for our stamper. Noting that stamped ore is what shoots your spells right now, and we've currently given it full degrees of freedom, so you can just shoot whatever direction the mouse is facing. Just let them shoot a few spells, to ideally give them a bit of time to figure out what's going on there. So in that case, kill a little slime. In this case we dropped an item, but kind of a happy coincidence more than anything else. Now we just tell the player to build and use another stamper, so we've given them this nice little spot that hopefully they will figure out without assistance. Currently there isn't a bad player check to guide them a little bit more specifically, but that's definitely another thing to check after this wave of playtesting. And then it's basically configured such that it should trigger once the second one goes in, like this. And then hopefully that teaches the player that the stamped ronk is what's firing the spells. But it's still only really spelled out in the dialogue, which is not necessarily ideal. And score another trinket. Scoring some more gear. And yeah, just clearing out a few more mobs, in this case, giving the player the ability to unlock a second spell. A few things to loot. And now the teleporter is telling the player they need stamped ronk, and then once again we've given them the exact pattern they need, such that they can get through the tutorial and then start experimenting with more advanced builds. In this case, this teleporter just needs 5 sets of stamped ronk to get through, so it probably take the player a bit, but also just gives them a little time to get the feel for what's going on. They can potentially even muck around with giving themselves an extra stamper here, which will obviously come in handy for the boss that's about to spawn. Let's just line that up now. Excellent, and then we just walk over to the thing, spawn the boss. We've specifically put this stamper here such that the boss should catch some stray damage from the stamper to kind of reinforce those ideas that your machinery is dangerous to everyone. We've given the boss a really small amount of health, so it should be pretty friendly for new players. Actually, let's take a damage to show. We're also currently showing the player, if you take damage, it's just a little notification. Make it a bit clearer that the player's taking damage, because especially at stuff like expo halls, it can be a bit tough to hear that notification. The boss has 3 enrage phases, once every 25% health, just to extend the boss fight a little bit, give you a bit of a feel for the bullet hell. Excellent, then you can just hop into the portal, and that's the tutorial done. Okay, now showing off the intro level. Now we're starting off with Orbic. Starts with a dart spell and the scales relic. Once again, this is mostly an exploration of accessibility. So one big issue is even after the tutorial, players aren't still super familiar with how to build everything. So what I've done is, this first level, no mobs will spawn until you antagonize the teleporter, which gives you the time to start your base up, and even find the teleporter. But until I wake it up, mobs will spawn. So I'm just going to speed run through this one. Grab the blade for the sake of showing it off. As you can see, we're not shooting any spells because we don't have any stamped rock coming in yet. That will be next on the agenda. Again, this starting level is really just a soft sandbox to cushion the player as they get a feel for the mechanics before we start getting into the real grindy stuff. But while we're here, let's show off a few. We can tee up a slightly nicer design. Let's show off the bomb as well. The bomb is probably the trickiest of the spells. So this is just a nice little iteration that combines two ore lines into a single one, stamps them so you're only getting a single stamped rock, and then merges it with a regular rock. So it's just a nice little pattern that will give you some spells, but also will continue to give you rock. As stamped rock can't be used to build buildings, so there's a notable problem if you convert all of your lines into stamped rock. And then while we're waiting for that, we can talk through a few other HUD elements. So as you can see, we now have our dash visible, so you know exactly when you can dash again, and we also have the timer for each of our abilities. So the dart shoots every shot, but everything else has a charge time. This demo version currently has 5 spells. The dart, which as you discussed is just a 1-to-1. The bomb, which drops underneath you but deals AoE damage after a little bit, and then the blade, which is short range but deals heaps of damage. So now once again should be a pretty friendly one. Now some mobs have spawned, so now we've ramped up the intensity. Ideally the players had the time to get a feel for all the different mechanics. Don't really want any of those, why not? But again, just a friendly boss fight to get the players started before we start cranking up the difficulty as we add the different buildings, minerals, etc. As you can see, we also spawn 2 snipers, but you don't necessarily need to deal with them because they only spawn as the boss spawns. Beautiful, and as you can see, that unlocks the Jintum Caves. Now that we've got the Jintum Caves unlocked, we also have Drillby, who starts with a blade and a blue pendant. And let's continue with Orbic, as we've already got the rock metal, so we can start exploring harder levels. So now some mobs should spawn, but the scaling slider works that the hardest rock levels don't start until you've also beaten the intro Jintum level, and that's when it'll start to really pack a punch. But for now, a little bit more of the same, just building the familiarity up. This will ideally not be too much of a grind for returning players, because you can really speedrun things, especially if you don't waste your starting money on merges and you're just using flip switches. Then you can clear this level in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Beautiful. That'll shoot through. We can start up another one. And then just like that, we've now got 2 sets of stamped rock coming in, which should hit us pretty quick. As you can see, now we have mobs spawning. Now the teleport has just been activated. It gives us a little something to do. Let's take Flak to mix it up. So Flak's just another AoE option. Its big upside is it starts with a lot of damage, and it will hit multi-shot as it scales, so it has quite interesting scaling on it. And we're literally already ready to hop into this boss fight. Take Octo as well for the sake of it. So notably, this run isn't going to end when we kill this boss, as we're going to go to the Gentum Caverns afterwards, which is where we'll unlock the second ore. So that's when things will really pick up a bit. But again, as we're really leaning towards accessibility first, the first time you encounter the Gentum level, it will similarly be reasonably friendly until you spawn the boss. While we have a moment, chuck you in there. Not the worst pickup. Bad. Excellent. So now you have a little bit of time to pick up anything you want. So if you want to pick up your most expensive buildings, that can help. Otherwise, you can basically hop right in. If there's XP drops from mobs, you can pick those up too. Excellent. So now we get a little choice. Guide to the teleporter is not that useful in this circumstance. 10% chance ores work as stamped ores is really powerful, and we did start with the scales, so I think we start with an anvil and cursive flanking. And as you'll see, that spawned us 5 starting ores, 5 starting crystals. So let's just get a little bit of Gentum in, and then we'll deal with those crystals. Beautiful. Good luck. And I'm going to specifically point this here, such that we have a through line through if we end up wanting to put a stamper down there to get us some stamped goods. So notably, we are shooting stuff already because of that anvil, so we have a 10% chance to shoot stuff rather than get it treated as an ore. Now that we have some Gentum, we unlock the Gentum flip drill, which shoots 2 directions, which makes it very helpful for clearing our snipers. We've got a bigger fella, will take a bit more work to take out, but we'll drop a chest. And while we're here, let's demo a few other things. The condenser is back, so running an ore through a condenser will double its value, which notably, as we can find, where's a rock we can clear out? This rock will work. Stronger stamped rock. One other upside to spawning snipers is that they can spit out XP drops. There is that pesky teleporter. Goodness. I feel like I've looked everywhere. I must have seen it and forgotten. Oh yeah. There it is. Excellent. So, there's a nice little pattern here. Let's wake that up. So it wants Stamped Rock this time. So we have a Gentum here, which is really good because we can run a condenser there and it'll strengthen the ores we shoot to it. As you can see, we need 200. So I think to be really, let's go really efficient for the sake of it, because there's 2. Let's just use the rock that's closer, since we can. Fantastic. So now I've got some stamped rock coming through this way. We'll do the same here. Stamp that rascal. And beautiful. And as you can see, each of these charges for 10 because it's running through a condenser. So that will be done lickety-split. And now while we're waiting for that, we put our stamp down here. It gives us a little starting stamped Gentum. Pick up the XP that we've got from our scales. Those are pretty weak. Those are all pretty weak. I guess size is fine. I think PS is pretty good. 3 shot count. It's kind of an epic dart. Excellent. And then now, I'm just gonna chuck a few more slightly better drills down. I think we're in a pretty good nick to. Let's just put one more stamped. Excellent. We're just putting one more stamp it down. So notably, we only deal 1 damage to Ronk enemies with our Gentum. So just to stop things getting gummed up, it might be advantageous for us to this friend, run it through a stamper. Beautiful. I don't want a tooth. I want a shield. Yeah, that's what it is. Excellent, so now we'll have a little Ronk coming through as well. And obviously we do have the anvil, so we would get a little Ronk regardless, but I think this will put us in a far better spot. One final thing to do. If we can redirect all of our stamped Ronk, we'll also be in a very good spot. As you can see, the Gentum boss, a bit grouchier than its Ronk counterpart. Yeah, why not? We'll take a heal. Some shoes. And the enrage phases get harder each time, so the 3rd enrage phase is the largest. Luckily we haven't given ourselves too bad of a base to deal with this fight, so we should be in a pretty good position to clear it. And a lot of this damage is just coming from the efficiencies we put together. You really can shoot as much as you build. Excellent. Now once again, spawned a whole pile of crystals to kick us out of this level. And in fact, as this is the final level, we don't really need to pick up any more items. We can just start our adventuring. As long as we make it to the portal, we are happy. You can see what the Gentum crystals, the Dremel crystals look like. A little bit grouchy, but ultimately not too bad. Excellent. And you can see that one just took us about 10 minutes. Took 8 damage, which is a little more than I would have liked, but it's fine. Good bit of aura covered, good bit of damage dealt.